Toki an oxistikoig nistu nitayakotskoi amon nisinaksen. Hello, today I'm going to tell you about my thesis. The first of those sentences was in Blackfoot, which is an Algonquian language spoken in Alberta. And the second, of course, was in English. Now, while the meanings of these two sentences are more or less the same, they're structured very differently. And in my thesis, I'm investigating those differences. Now, before I tell you what I found, let me tell you why this is an interesting question. Suppose I were to say to you, the Dean of Arts is a purple fire-breathing dragon. Chances are you've never heard this sentence before. And in fact, this sentence may have never been uttered before in the whole history of the universe. Yet I can say it, and you can understand it. So what this tells us is that a language can't simply be a list of sentences that we memorize. Instead, we can think of a language as a set of instructions in our brains that tell us how to construct a potentially infinite number of sentences out of the rather limited number of words we have in our vocabularies. And my job as a linguist is to figure out those instructions. Now, one thing that we know is that languages take words and group them together into phrases, which can in turn be grouped into bigger phrases, which can in turn be grouped into sentences. For example, let's take the sentence I'm going to tell you about my thesis. We know that it's built out of a noun phrase that says who or what the sentence is about, and a verb phrase. And that verb phrase is in turn built out of a verb, or an action word, and another noun phrase that says what or whom we're acting upon. We can think of this along the lines of a template, as structural positions for words and expressions to map onto. But whereas in English, expressions like I and my thesis map onto the who and what positions, the noun phrases, in Blackfoot this seems not to be the case. In Blackfoot, a single word can be a sentence. I can say, nitayakotskoi, and that one word is a perfectly well-formed sentence that means I'm going to tell you about something. This shows us that the way phrases are built in Blackfoot must be different than how they're built in English. And what I've found is that a noun phrase in Blackfoot, the who or what phrase, is actually built out of pieces of the verb, the action word, plus words we typically associate with nouns, like the or this or that. And then the noun itself is actually not part of this noun phrase, but instead forms a different phrase with other pieces of the verb. In other words, to build a phrase in Blackfoot, we can take pieces from over here, from the verb, and pieces from over here, from the noun, and put them together. A phrase is not built out of an expression, or a series of words that are next to one another in a sentence, like my and thesis. Now, once we know that languages can do this, it changes the way we think about how sentences are built. If we're asking the question, what are the essential ingredients of a human language, it may be that phrase structure, this building up of words into bigger and bigger phrases, is indeed an essential ingredient. But the way in which phrases are built can vary. And by looking at languages like Blackfoot, we can begin to understand that variation. Thank you.